Hey YouTube family, this is Casey and welcome to another episode of Fresh Air. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to build your self-confidence. I'm going to talk about 10 ways, plus one, that you can build your self-confidence. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And always happy to have you. And remember, always get out there in nature, get some sun on your face. It's a beautiful world despite everything else that's going on. So thanks for listening, thanks for tuning in, and check out this vid. Today we're talking about 10 simple steps or 10 easy ways that you can begin to build your self-confidence. Now, this is a very, very important topic because having self-confidence affects so many things in your life. It will affect how much money you make. It will affect who you end up with. It'll affect what you decide to try or not try. It'll even impact where you go. Confidence is really, really important in today's world, even more so than it was years ago. And so I encourage you, take a listen and let's get started building your self-confidence. Number one, acknowledge your lack of confidence and don't resist it by will or suppression. Now, there's an interesting thought process here, and if you listen carefully to the advice, instead of pushing against something, so resisting the lack of confidence or the insecurity, I want you to not even think about the insecurity and just think about building confidence. It's the difference between functioning in the negative and functioning in the positive. And in all things, positive energy is 10 times more powerful than negative energy. And so you want to stay in the realm of the positive. So instead of thinking, I'm going to resist my insecurities, pay little attention to them. Take the energy away from that and simply pour that energy into your own confidence and into building your self-confidence. So number one, acknowledge your lack of confidence and don't resist it by will or suppression. So acknowledge those insecurities. Don't resist them, just acknowledge them. Number two, instead, focus on building confidence and not on suppressing insecurity. Your focus should always remain in the positive if you want to have the most power, the most energy to do what you need to do. Resisting something always gives it more energy and more focus than simply directing your attention to what you want. Pay no attention to what you don't want. Pay all of your attention to what you do want. Number three, recognize your personal expertise and always start from there. Now, it's no secret that knowledge builds confidence. It's no secret that knowing what you are talking about or what you're saying or what you are trying to impart to others will build your confidence. So my advice simply is, always start from the place where you have that advantage, where you are most confident, and that is from your own personal expertise. No one is more of an expert on you than you. So start all your conversations from that perspective. Talk about what you know so that you'll know what you're talking about. Number four, create small opportunities to interact with other people. What this means is, essentially, the more you do something, the better you get at it. But don't wait for those big circumstances to come up where you're standing in front of a crowd of people delivering a speech, or where you're called upon to do some great feat. Instead, start prepping early. Create small situations where you can talk to someone. And by talking to more people, sometimes random strangers, sometimes people you know, your confidence will begin to develop. An interesting thing happens with human beings. The more we do something, typically, the more confident and the more comfortable we become. So, I want you to start by creating small opportunities to interact with other people. And I guarantee that this will help to build your confidence. Number 5, make fun of your own mistakes. Now, this is extremely important because laughter creates a degree of comfort within yourself. It's no wonder that most speakers, most doctors, most people who want to tell you something important will start out by breaking the ice. And usually that's a joke. So I encourage you, make fun of your own mistakes. Don't wait for anyone else to do it yourself. And you'll find that these mistakes, as we call them, or these mishaps, will actually create a more varied, a more charming, and a more confident personality. Number 6, always be the first to volunteer to do something new. Now, this one sometimes can be difficult if you are a shy person naturally. So on the heels of this, or at the back of this, is really moving into that zone of discomfort so that you can build your comfort zone. In other words, if your comfort zone is tiny, the only way to stretch and build and grow that comfort zone is to step out of it more often. Because the more you step out of it, the wider, the broader, the bigger your comfort zone becomes. And the bigger your comfort zone, the bigger your confidence. Number 7, increase your knowledge about whatever you feel insecure about. Increase your knowledge about whatever you feel insecure about. Nothing builds confidence like knowing what you're talking about. I alluded to this earlier, but I wanted to make it its own point on this list because it's so important to building your self-confidence. When you are exactly aware and knowledgeable about what you are talking about, your confidence will rise to the 100%, as opposed to being a little less knowledgeable or just completely not knowing what you're talking about, in which case your confidence will fall. So if you've got a speech to deliver, if you want to talk to someone about something, if you want to persuade someone to do something, take the time to become knowledgeable on the topic. It will serve you 1,000 times over, and it will continue to build your self-confidence. Number 8, the joy of life is in doing, so never be outdone. In other words, the more you do, the more comfortable it gets. And this is right in line with expanding your comfort zone. But this really talks about just getting out there and doing more. The more you do, the more your confidence rises, and the more that confidence rises, the more your happiness, your joy, and the more your desire to do more things increases. So it's kind of a snowball effect if you really think about it. The more I do, the happier I get, the more confident I get, which means I want to do more, which means I'll be happier, which means I'll have more confidence, which means I'll want to do more. So make that snowball effect work for you. The joy of life is in doing, so never be outdone. Number 9, commit to being the first to speak in a typically awkward situation. You ever have that moment where you're standing in an elevator full of strangers and you start to think and start to feel uncomfortable, and you kind of notice that everyone else feels a little uncomfortable, but no one says anything? Well, most people are just as uncomfortable as you are. So why not break the ice? Why not be the first to say something? Why not be the first to make everyone else comfortable? The more you do this, the more your confidence will rise. And you might even make a friend in the process. So I encourage you, in those situations, go ahead, say something, break the ice, so that everyone will just be a little more comfortable. Number 10, practice, practice, practice. And when you're finished doing that, practice some more. Now, this is super, super important if you want to build your confidence. If you've got a speech to do, an important conversation to have, a talk to deliver, whatever it is that you need to do, my encouragement to you is practice it ahead of time. If it's an important conversation, stand in front of your bathroom mirror. Talk to yourself as if you're talking to that other person. Listen to the logic of your argument. When you do this, what will happen is that practice, that consistent practice, will yield tons of results. And it's almost in line with something like muscle memory, where you've done it before, you've read it before, you've had the conversation before, so already your comfort level increases, which will also increase your confidence, because guess what? You know what you're talking about because you've had that conversation before. So whenever something important is coming up, or even not so important, practice, practice, practice. You can never practice enough or too much for an important conversation. And number 11, ask 3 times as many questions as opposed to making statements. Now, this is important for building confidence because the more questions you ask as opposed to making statements, the more other people will like and want to talk to you. And the more confident you will feel because you'll feel that acceptance in their energy. The fact is, it is very difficult for the subconscious to ignore a question, but it's very easy for the subconscious to ignore a statement. So if you want that conversation and if you want people to really kind of tap in with you and kind of vibe with you, ask more questions than you do or than the statements that you make. This will help you again build your confidence because of the feedback and the energy that you'll get from other people. So these are the 10 plus 1 important things to do to start building your confidence. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, because confidence is always a work in progress. And it's something that you will continue to develop as you start to do these things. So here's that list again, as fast as a New York minute. Acknowledge your lack of confidence and don't resist it by will or suppression. Number 2, instead, focus on building confidence and not on suppressing insecurity. Number 3, recognize your personal expertise and always start from there. Number 4, create small opportunities to interact with other people. Number 5, make fun of your own mistakes. Number 6, always be the first to volunteer to do something new. Number 7, increase your knowledge about whatever you feel insecure about. Number 8, the joy of life is in doing, so never be outdone. The more you do, the more comfortable it gets. Number 9, commit to being the first to speak in typically awkward situations, like in an elevator full of strangers or when a question is asked. Most people are just as uncomfortable as you are, so why not break the ice? Number 10, practice, 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 and when you're finished doing that, practice some more. And number 11, ask 3 times as many questions as opposed to statements. So ask 3 times as many questions as the statements that you make. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to start building your self-confidence. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if any of these 10 plus 1 steps have been valuable to you or have helped you rise out of insecurity and into your great self-confidence. Thank you. This has been Casey with another episode of fresh air, alternate interpretations of reality. I hope you found this recording useful, and I encourage you, if you do, please like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel where I will upload new content every week. Thank you.